Hello, my name is Pastor Eric Shafer. I'm the senior pastor here at Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California, and this is Hope Matters. Each week, we talk to an interesting person from around the community and around the country and even around the world about the theme of hope, because we believe that hope matters. My guest this week is Andrew Steele, who is the Vice President for Development and Outreach at Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, known as LIRS, which is based in Baltimore, Maryland, but has a many year history, 80+ year history of working with refugees around the world, and is an agency that I care very much about. So welcome, Andrew. Glad you're with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Pastor Eric, and thanks for thinking I'm interesting enough to be here.
All right. So what does a Vice President for Development and Outreach do in LIRS?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I'm still learning it myself, as I know your guest last week was also new to her job. I started in this role last July. Felt called to this work for many reasons, which we can get into, but essentially, development and outreach encompasses all of our fundraising and stewardship activities, as well as our outreach to faith-based communities, interfaith work, working with congregations, synods, as well as volunteer mobilization. So trying to pull people together who want to be an ambassador for this work, and we help them advocate, give, and volunteer with us.
So how would a person watching this interview get involved in LIRS, Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, if they're interested?
Yeah, no, and thanks for asking. I mean, for one, so I'm a proud Lutheran. I grew up in the church. Both of my parents are actually ELCA pastors, so I'm a PK squared from the East Coast. Grew up in New Jersey, and I went to a ELCA college. I even worked at the ELCA churchwide office for over 6 years. I didn't really know that much about LIRS until really working here. And I think that probably goes the same for many of us across the church. Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services started in 1939, welcoming Lutherans from Europe who were refugees because of World War II. We've grown, of course, since then. We've been major players in providing welcome during every major crisis, a migration crisis in history since then, really. And so we've evolved into a national organization, national ministry that works all across the country, welcoming newcomers. So right now, we're still in that COVID time where volunteering hands-on is tough. Hopefully soon, we'll get back to being able to do more things in person. One of those volunteer opportunities is detention visitation. Visiting some migrants and folks who are in detention to just pray with them, to be with them, to just be a smiling face, to show them that they are loved by God and by you. So that's a volunteer opportunity we hope to invite people to once we get past this. Also, though, with advocacy, there are a lot of ways that people can advocate for immigrants and refugees through LIRS. And a lot of that has to do with advocating Congress for federal policies, but also in your state legislature. So we have an advocacy team here that you can definitely be involved in, whether that's writing letters to your representatives or literally signing up for our advocacy day, which is around World Refugee Day every year. And that where we connect you to meet with your representatives and advocate on behalf of those we serve. And of course, giving is always an option. We need funding. Ministry needs funding. Something that an ELCA missionary said in a video many years ago that stuck with me is, God doesn't need money, but God's work needs money. And this is God's work. And so giving offerings and stewardship towards this ministry is important. All of these opportunities you can find on lirs.org, our website, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our handle there is @lirs.org.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, recently we've had a change in the national administration, the presidency, and the former president, whatever you thought about him on a number of issues, was not very friendly to the traditional refugee, cutting the numbers too drastically. And now we have a president who's more sympathetic. So how does it look in 2021 for LIRS working with the federal government and the opportunities that we're hopefully going to have very soon?
Yeah, this is definitely a new time and a hopeful time for us as an organization and I think, for us as a nation to get back to who we really are. And, as Christian Lutherans, the holy work of welcome is such a part of our DNA. We were all welcomed here at one point, right? I know my immigrant ancestors from Germany and Latvia, who were the Lutheran connections in my family. I mean, they were here, they were welcomed here with open arms and were able to start a new life, which allowed us to now be here and thriving in our own ways. It's true. During the Trump administration, specifically around refugee resettlement, the numbers continued to get drastically cut. So there's something every year called the presidential determination. And the president, in consultation with Congress, gets to set the cap, the number of how many refugees will we bring into the country each year. On average, since 1980, that average has been about 100,000 refugees per year. During the Trump administration, the numbers continued to get cut lower and lower. And then in the final year of the administration, which actually includes this year, it was set at 15,000. So our average was 100,000, cut to 15,000. And a trivia fact that I like to throw out there is the presidential administration that resettled more refugees than any other, the Reagan administration. This was always a bipartisan effort. This was never, I mean, this was just something that we did.
Yeah, and I think it's important for our viewers who don't know much about refugees and immigration is we're not talking about undocumented people. We're not talking about people coming over the border of Canada or from Mexico. We're talking about people who've gone through the process, who've been approved by the State Department, who've had background checks, who are people that are ready, who are reuniting with families. We're trying to save people from Iraq and Syria and Afghanistan who helped us and maybe in danger, all those kind of people. So that's a whole nother matter, and we don't have time to talk about that today. But that's important to know that what you're talking about are the legal refugees who come in and are sponsored by our congregations, and our congregations have this 80-some-year history of helping them. That's
many of us have a story from our congregation of welcoming a family from Vietnam or Cambodia or Sudan, what have you. Refugees, when they reach our soil here, this is the end of their journey, of their migration journey, in terms of they've gone through all those hoops. Many of them living in refugee camps for years and years and years, waiting to come to safety. We do have a great explainer page on our website. What is the difference between a refugee, an asylum seeker, and a migrant? And there are differences, both kind of legal differences and just definitions. Would encourage you to read up on that because it's helpful. But now the Biden administration has made a commitment to increase that presidential determination number. You might have seen in the news that it kind of went back and forth, actually. President Biden had campaigned that he was going to raise the number, and then they said we're going to keep it actually at the 15,000. There was such pushback from churches, communities, organizations like ourselves that they've reversed back to their original statement, which was this year we hope, and we probably won't though, bring in 62,500 refugees, and then next year get up to 125,000. So what we're doing now is trying to build a capacity. Unfortunately, during the previous administration, a lot of our infrastructure was decimated. We had to close 17 of our resettlement offices. We had to lay off a lot of staff members simply because there were no refugees being admitted to the United States. We have to build all of that up, and that takes time. So really this year, there is still resettlement going on. It's just very limited. This is going to be the year that we build up our capacity.
That's wonderful. Now let's switch gears just for a minute, and we could talk about all these things for hours, but LIRS has been the major player in trying to help these young children who have come across the border. So talk a little bit about that work, if you would.
Yes. So really one of the first surges that happened back in probably 2014 and 2016 in terms of unaccompanied children coming across the southern border. The federal government came to us, LIRS, and the USCCB, the United States Council of Catholic Bishops. We are the only two organizations that are working with the children in terms of helping them reunite with their families. So, you got Lutherans and Catholics working together here on an important ministry. But we are doing, LIRS provides about 85%, the vast majority of family reunification for all the children, the unaccompanied minors. So, what happens is they come across the border. They are then in the custody of the government for a few days to just kind of try to start sorting out who are they, where they come from. And then basically it's when LRS steps in to help connect them to their families. And what people don't maybe understand or know is that over 50% of the children have a parent here. And the vast majority, close to 90%, over 80%, have a guardian. So another sponsor like an aunt and uncle. So the vast majority of these children do have extended family here, some even a parent. So they're not coming over and we don't have thousands and thousands of orphans. Many of them already have family members here. And we provide foster care programming, so long-term, short-term. And some of these children, unfortunately, we can't find their families. And, when we think of the family separation policy that was put into place under the previous administration, unfortunately, there's still about 500 children. We simply, because of a policy that our government put in place, we cannot find their families. And so adoption becomes an option. So, there are a lot of ways. This is a long welcome that we try to provide, holistic support. It's not just like, hey, come here, we'll put you in they live with foster families. We help them get into schools and make sure their medical care is provided and doing things that, again, regardless of politics, this is our response as again, Christian Lutherans, right? That's the justification of who we are, why we exist. This is in response to that grace that we get from God. And we've all received it. And so now it's our turn to do the same.
That's right. That's perfect. So if someone is interested in being a foster parent or even adopting one of these children, they can find that information on the website again. Right?
Yeah, again, we are looking for foster parents. Now,
yes.
The one caveat is you have to live within 50 miles of one of our centers, and we can answer all those questions again on our website. We have a page on foster care, and you can send an inquiry into us, lrs.org.
That's great. That's great. And that's wonderful. I now have someone at the door, which is going to interrupt our interview here, which is how we do when we do these live. So give me just
church
a minute.
Is church.
I'll be right back. Here we go.
Of course, church is church. A good pastor's door is always open. So there you
go. Okay, took care of that.
And we're back.
Don't think we have to stop. And we're back. Okay. All right. So, well, thank you for that. And that is very, very helpful. And
and can I make another plug?
Please.
So during this time, our work when it comes to refugee resettlement, again, has been slowed. Obviously, though, we've been increasing all of our work when it comes to unaccompanied minors. So we are right now hiring a lot. I mean, as many as we can find, essentially, case managers. Social workers or people who can serve as case managers for us, who will help check in with the children and ensure that their process from when they cross the border to reuniting with their families is something that is smooth. We are right now, it's just hard to find people who can serve in these capacities. You don't have to live on the southern border. We have remote case management as an opportunity. So please, especially bilingual, anyone who can speak Spanish and English, highly preferred as well. And you can find all those job opportunities again on our website.
Wonderful. Again, let me check the door. I'll be right back.
This is where we should have the commercials. The plugs should happen here.
Okay.
Here.
And here we are again. All right.
All right.
This will be an interesting interview for people, but
yeah,
we could start again, but I don't think so. We've covered so much important stuff that I think
it's great.
Leave it to good. So, well, thank you for this. So, just to recap, if people are interested in supporting your work, if people are interested in volunteering, if people are interested in jobs, if there are people interested in foster care or adoption, all this stuff is at lirs.org.
Yeah, and I just think, come to our general website so you can learn a lot more about what we do. And I also encourage you to sign up for our newsletters. We send a weekly e-newsletter to folks who are interested with all the headlines and the news that LRS has been involved in, both in terms of the work we do, but also just immigration and refugee news. we'll send you everything you need to know. And I really believe that this, migration is one of the great topics that's going to be a major thing in our lifetime, right? This is something that is not going to go away. And again, it's our response as Lutherans, as Christians, to welcome the stranger, right? So that's why we do this.
That's wonderful. So we've already touched on it, but quickly then, what does give you hope, Andrew, these days?
Well, despite the narrative that I think we've heard for the last several years and that we're accustomed to, in terms of just kind of negative viewpoints on the other immigrants and refugees or just anyone who's different than us, I find hope in all the thousands and millions of people who are welcoming, that know that we are all God's children. I see that in congregations all across the country. I see it in my own community, in neighbors that I have, but I'm filled with hope in the outpouring of love. And honestly, even when this news got out, we usually see about 800, maybe 800 emails a month on our interest in being foster care parents. We're at over 2,000 now a month of people inquiring. That gives me hope that there are families and people who say, my gosh, I don't know what else to do other than just, these are children. I want to help them. So, I'm filled with hope out of the generosity in people's hearts. We've seen an increase in giving as well. Something that, it's an unfortunate need, but the fact that people are stepping up and thousands of people are starting to support this ministry that never had before. So that always fills me with hope every day.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. This has been Hope Matters, a weekly production of Mount Olive Lutheran Church here in Santa Monica, California. Our guest today has been Andrew Steele, the Vice President for Development and Outreach of Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, LIRS. You can find out so much more about LIRS and all the things Andrew has talked about and much more at lirs.org. Andrew, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much, Pastor. Take care.
You're welcome. Tune in again next week as we welcome a new guest on Hope Matters. We believe that hope matters because we believe we have a God of hope. Thank you for joining us.